Hello children, in this video we will start with the third chapter in geography, that is Exogenetic Movements part 1. So children, in the last chapter we learned how the internal movements occurred and different landforms were formed like the fold mountain, the block mountain, rift valleys, and also caused devastating occurrences like earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. These were all the internal movements of the earth. In the third chapter, we will learn about the external movements that occur because of the forces working on the earth's surface. And these movements mainly occur due to solar energy, gravitational force, and kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is the energy that is possessed due to its motion, especially with the moving objects on the earth's surface. So children, due to exogenetic movements, that is the external process of weathering, that is erosion, transportation and deposition, there are tertiary landforms that are formed like valleys, sand dunes, delta, U-shaped valleys, etc. Now children, see carefully the pictures that are in front of you. Observe the physical appearances of the rocks in each picture. You can see that the rocks are broken, fractured and have holes in them, right? In one of the picture, you can also see that the statue has been deformed. So children, can you tell me why are the rocks in such a condition? So the rocks are in this condition due to a natural phenomenon of breaking or weakening of rocks, which is called as weathering, that we will learn in this chapter. Now children, weathering can be of three types. First is mechanical or physical weathering. Second is chemical weathering. And third is biological weathering. Mechanical weathering occurs mainly in arid climates, that is, in region that is too dry and does not receive rain. Whereas chemical weathering occurs in humid climates, means where the level of water vapor is high in the region. And lastly, biological weathering occurs because of living organisms. Now let's start with the first weathering, that is mechanical weathering. So children, you might have observed when you cut an onion, it has layers in it, right? So you will notice that just as we remove each and every outer layer of the onion, similarly, in nature, rocks undergo such a process. The exposed part of the rock heats more, while the inner part is comparatively cooler. As a result, the outer layer of the rocks fall apart. That means it breaks down from the main rock. So this is called as, that is, this process is called as exfoliation of the rock. So children, mechanical weathering mainly occurs because of the following reasons, that is temperature, frost, crystal growth, release of pressure and water. So let us start with the first one, that is temperature. So the minerals in the rocks expand because of heat and contract, that means become smaller when the temperature decreases. Due to such continuous contracting and expanding, tension develops in the rock particles. Each mineral reacts differently to the temperature. Some minerals expand more, while others do not expand as much. Consequently, the tension formed in the rocks also increases and decreases. As a result, cracks develop in the rocks and they break. In areas where the diurnal range, it is the difference between day and night temperature, is higher, weathering of this type is common in hot deserts. Now let us start with frost. So children, you know that the volume of the water increases when it freezes. You might have learned this in your science, right? So in areas where the temperature drops below 0 degrees Celsius for quite some time, the water that is collected in the cracks and narrow openings of the rocks freezes. So its volume increases. This leads to tension in the rocks and they shatter. That means they break down. Now let us do crystal growth. In rocky coast, that is where there are a lot of rocks in the coast, waves hit the sea cliff, that is the part of the mountain that faces the sea. The water is alkaline. That is, the water has the properties of an alkali whose pH is greater than 7. Some water droplets hit the cracks in the rocks, that are facing the sea. In this alkaline water, the soluble materials in the rock get dissolved. This leads to formation of small holes in the rocks. This is the effect of solution. Alkaline water gets stored in these holes. Because of heat, this water turns into water vapor and only crystals of alkaline materials remain in the rocks. Crystals occupy more space. This causes tension in the rocks. Holes are formed in the rocks that looks like a honeycomb. Now we will do release of pressure. So it is not that tension is created in the rocks only because of temperature, freezing of water or crystallization. The outer layers of the rocks create pressure on the inner or the lower layers. So when this pressure comes to an end, the lower or inner layers get freed from the pressure. This also leads to weathering. That means the rock gets side from the main rock. They break away from the main rock. Now we will do water. So some areas experience more rainfall than the others. In such areas, soaking of rock water also causes weathering of some rocks like sandstone and conglomerate. These rocks are formed because of pressure on the collection of sand particles. Mud also makes sand particles come together. When water enters into such rocks, the particles get loose and separate from the main rock. So this process is called as granular weathering. But sometimes both temperature and water are responsible for weathering. So differences in temperature causes contraction or shrinking and expansion, widening the joints or the cracks in the rocks. Water gets collected in such wide joints and big blocks of rocks separate from each other. This is called as block disintegration. Okay children, we will stop here for today. The next part of the chapter will be explained in the next video.